Thanks everyone for tuning in to this Stardom discussion, a review of All Star Grand Queendom 2024. I'm Jason, and because there is so much to talk about, I decided to bring in a guest to cover this event. This is someone who's very well versed in the world of Stardom and has a lot of things to say about the wrestlers, the booking, and Stardom's future. So today's guest from Talk for Glory is Enigma V4. Enigma V4, how's your day going so far?
Hey, Jason, thank you for having me along. And my day's going great, man. I just finished talking about this amazing show. How's your day going?
It's going fairly well. I've gotten a chance to rewatch the title matches from All Star Grand Queendom, and I got inspired watching your prediction video because you really laser focused in on the title matches in particular. I thought that was a really good idea for what we could do today because there were 11 matches on the show, and not all of them were very consequential. I think thinking about the belt picture, the champions that were involved, the challengers and future challengers is probably the best use of our time. So I think we'll have a good time talking about it.
Thank you. I laser focused on the pay per view name All Star, and that made me perfectly go, all right, All Stars means champions. I'm going to talk about championships.
Very, very nice. And this show was definitely full of stars. There are a lot of matches that stand out for different reasons. There was a lot of plot developments and character turns that happened. There are so many sort of asterisks and side notes on different matches to think about. There were a lot of microphones that got grabbed after the matches ended. So it's not just about what happened in the ring itself in terms of moves and pinfalls and stuff.
There was a lot going on, whether it's in the ring or someone coming out or someone talking or someone returning. And there's a lot of things that make you wonder what's going to happen the next day. How does this affect next week? We're currently in May, which means the 5-star Grand Prix isn't that far. There is a partnership between AEW and New Japan and a little bit of Stardom, so maybe this affects Forbidden Door. Maybe we have people show up because if Azumi, Momo Watanabe, Mina Sugar, just to name a few, loud reaction in Philadelphia or great reaction on AEW didn't show us that, hey, people love Stardom. Who's said that we won't see some of these names that appeared here in All Star Grand Queendom at Forbidden Door?
Very exciting to think about. There are a lot of possibilities. I think the first thing we should get into was the first title match that took place at All Star Grand Queendom. This was the Future of Stardom title match between champion Rina of Oedo Tai and Sayaka Kurara, making her very first title challenge. She, of course, joined Cosmic Angels recently. And I think what Sayaka does very, very well is take on that underdog character role. And that's kind of the best opponent for Rina to be facing. She's faced a number of them and done away with pretty much all of them. But the story of how that takes place and how the crowd gets behind these underdogs is very fun to watch. And I've really been enjoying Rina's run and the dynamic she has with her various opponents.
I think that when it comes to the Future of Stardom title, Rina is the perfect person to fit a certain narrative that I've associated the belt with. And it's that giving younger talents the opportunities. Because although, yes, I respect the idea that the Future of Stardom title is for rookies, so I want to say teenagers and people that aren't into the company or just wrestling for like 10 years. So, Lady C, for example, I love the fact that Rina has faced people like Kurara, like Miyu, like um yeah, I'm forgetting her name. I'm drawing a blank, but it's Inaba, Azuba Inaba. She's basically staying within her age range. Rina is 16, so anyone between the ages of 16 and 20 isn't that far off from her. But another thing I actually found out was that Rina is on defense number 7, I believe, or 6.
I think it's actually defense number 8, the one that she just accomplished at All Star Grand Queendom, I believe, is number 8. So she's knocking on the door right now of certain someone we know.
And one of my favorite things actually about Rina, and I'll say it's not even the current holder of the most defenses did. Rina feels like a final boss to the title. For any newcomers that go after that title, I think a lot of fans, including myself and you, that one of the things that it goes is, oh wow, this newcomer is doing amazing until they face Rina. Now it's, oh wow, you have to face Rina? Wow, good luck. And I'm saying that about a 16-year-old.
Yeah, she's definitely exceeded my expectations with this title run. And she carries herself like she is the absolute pinnacle. And the way she talks to these challengers and kind of dismisses them. She plays a brat, a bully, and it really amps up the match and how the events of the match end up playing out. With Sayaka, she's already in this position where she's going to try everything she possibly can. You hear her screaming and shrieking during these matches. And physically, she's really good at selling the damage she's taking, how beaten down she is. And it's all about a story of her trying to build herself back up and cross through or reach the threshold. So let's see. The next title match that we ended up having on the show was the 4-person high speed title, I guess we'll say fiasco or free for all that took place. And there were, I guess we'll say, a mishmash of different people that were involved, starting with, of course, the defending champion who recently secured this belt, Saki Kashima, trying to defend against just a mix of people: Saya Kamitani of Queen's Quest, Saya Ida of Stars, and Fukigen Death of Oedo Tai. This was a match that I suspect was not initially intended to be 4 people, but does seem like Saki Kashima is a little bit compromised at the moment. And so having the extra bodies around to carry a large degree of the match does make sense with that sort of in mind. But I did hear you mention that this was not your favorite thing you've ever seen.
It was not, because I get it. Kashima is not the best wrestler in the world. She's not the fastest wrestler in the world. But I would argue she is the smartest wrestler ever. Now, I do think that Saki Kashima probably miscalculated. She probably thought, I'm probably just going to wait for the right time at the right place. But I actually think that she overcalculated and she missed her mark, because, as I'm seeing on the screen, that this match did go 6 minutes. And in those 6 minutes, I want to say for at least 5, this match felt like a triple threat, less so a 4-way.
Absolutely. Yes. It seems that the approach Saki Kashima was taking was to maybe let the other 3 competitors beat each other up, wear each other out. And as we saw her attempt to do, slip in at kind of the last minute, try to nail her patented Kishikaise as many times as was necessary to pin somebody, but it was not to be for the high speed champion, now former high speed champion.
Crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild. I did happen to predict the outcome that we ended up seeing, which was Saya Kamitani, the Golden Phoenix of all people, in the mix of chaos and roll-ups and fast movement. You know, one of the things that I think defines the high-speed division is that these matches are existing in a dynamic where the end of the match can happen at just about any moment. Someone can just suddenly win. And that's how this ended up playing out. And this is why Saya Kamitani is now the high-speed champion of Stardom. We have to at least point out that she is at a turning point as a character. Queen's Quest, the elephant in the room, is the fact that they do not have a leader right now. And Saya almost immediately made a statement just making her entrance, in the fact that her entire costume, her entire visual aesthetic now is heavily sort of entrenched in the color red, which is symbolic of her former friend, Utami Hayashishita, and seems to be the beginning of maybe a new chapter for Saya Kamitani, maybe a chapter that involves her chasing the red belt. But she's got an existing title reign to deal with, and it'll be a bit curious to see how she navigates this and what challengers come her way and how those matches end up playing out.
So I have a funny saying in Stardom where it's leaders wear red, or future red belt champions wear red. And two of those things can't happen. Or at least how I feel. One, Saya can't be champion this year. She already had her chance. She got stacked by Maika, sadly. And I will die on the hill. Saya can't be Queen's Quest leader. Unfortunately, this isn't Top for Glory, so I don't have the button, but you guys know who I need to be leader. But when it comes to Saya as high-speed champion, which I also say that depending who you are, the name of the title is going to change. With Kashima, this is the low-speed title. But now in the possession of now in the possession of Saya Kamitani, I want to call this the High Fly Championship. Because Saya isn't high speed, she's high fly. She'll take a more aerial route than a speed run route. While people are driving, Saya is flying. So it's going to be curious. It's going to be interesting to see how the reign of the Golden Phoenix is going to go. And I love her attire. I love the fact that it's red. Honestly, I actually thought that she would be wearing half red, half green, wearing Christmas colors. But if her gear is just a shout out Utami, it's honestly beautiful. And I said this, I believe, during Utami's last match, that if wrestling was a love story, Aphrodite would be the Arthurs.
I feel like we absolutely need to talk about this next match. So, following up the 4-way title match in high speed, we had another 4-way, but this was involving tag teams vying for the Goddess of Stardom Championship. And this is officially the last time I am ever going to doubt the Stardom wrestlers for having too many people in a single match. I don't think they can be hindered by any number of wrestlers in a single match because they are able to coordinate these absolutely blisteringly fast sequences and mix-ups and somehow showcase everybody involved and keep you just darting from left to right, up, down, front, back, and center. And they just dazzle you with what they can pull off in the midst of a tornado of different Stardom wrestlers. So in this Goddess match, we had the defending champions, Crazy Star, taking on FWC, which is Hazuki and Koguma. Who else do we have in here? O2 line. We had Azumi and Miyu Amasaki. And then we had the Oedo Tai team of Starlight Kid and Ruaka. And this will be noted strangely to everyone's surprise as the last appearance of Starlight Kid within the Oedo Tai faction. So what did you think about this tag match?
So I did not know what the rules were. I didn't know whether this was Tornado, whether it was you surprisingly tag someone in and out. And I actually like the fact that I was unaware of what's going to go on, because 1 minute I'm watching Azumi, Kid, Koguma, and Mei all do their high speed shenanigans, and then I'm seeing Hazuki get in the ring. Then I'm going to see Suzu get in the ring. Then I see Rocky in the ring. Then I see Miyu get in. I'm just seeing everyone everywhere all at the same time, and this is the definition of a tornado tag. Everyone's pinning, everyone's flying, everyone's diving, and just there's so much going on, and it never felt as if it was overwhelming or as if it was what's going on, who's there. You would always see, okay, FWC's about to do a tag move. Azumi's about to springboard in. Raka's got her box. Starlight Kid's about to dive. May and Sierra are apparently the best tag team that's non-Stardom affiliated. That's non-affiliated. I actually want to talk about that, how we have 3 official tag teams. We have Stars, we have Oedo Tai, we have Queen's Quest, and then we just have Crazy Stars, which is non-affiliated. And they are the best tag team here.
Yeah, it's almost like Crazy Star is the brand. It is the faction in and of itself. It's just it's a two-person faction, I guess. They've been going so long since they've been strictly Stardom. I think it's probably almost a year or crossing the line of being a year, and they haven't joined anybody. Yeah, this match was absolutely magic. I really can't overstate how much I enjoyed this, especially on the second watch, where I could just appreciate the artistry and how they put this match together. There are even moments, as fast paced as it was, where they brilliantly slowed things down. There was a sort of a spotlight placed on Starlight Kid and Suzuki, which they obviously have some history dating back a couple of Grand Prix and this year's Cinderella tournament.
Yes, I eliminated her.
That's correct. Yeah, there was just enough time to change the pace, focus on two people, and give you a little bit of like character based dueling. I actually like how the story of this match was kind of the fact that any team could win at any moment. And the only thing stopping that from happening was somebody breaking up the pinfalls. So it was really a test, like a stress test of how good the teamwork would be for each pair and how perfect could their timing be? How could they dive in and make the save? Which is kind of why the Oedo Tai team ended up leaning on their cheating and their interference from other people outside, because I think the idea was that Ruaka and Starlight Kid were not as unified in terms of their performance or maybe even their friendship as it turns out a little bit later. And so they had to try and cheat their way through, but they screwed up with this I guess Ruaka's suitcase or briefcase or whatever you want to call that, her weapon of choice. That whole moment cost them the match, and Crazy Star retaining in a fantastic showcase of all of these teams. But maybe for a second here, we should just discuss the fallout in the sense that Ruaka and the rest of Oedo Tai interpreted this as apparently Starlight Kid's final insult. I didn't realize she was on thin ice in the first place, but they decided that her costing their tag team this opportunity was enough to exile her from Oedo Tai forever.
That actually caught me off guard with the whole getting kicked out of Oedo Tai, because from 2021 to now, anything basically faction war related or championship related was on Starlight Kid, because we had Starlight challenge Kamitani for the Wonder. We had Starlight, Kashima, and Momo win Artist. We had Starlight and Momo winning Goddess. So you would think that with her fast upright, and we also had Starlight holding the high speed title until she lost it to Azumi. And even during the Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai, you can either argue it was Starlight or it was actually no, it was Starlight. It was Starlight that brought Momo to Oedo Tai. So it was shocking for me to see, oh wow, they kicked out Starlight, but she's done so much in so little time. I would actually argue that she did more than Natsuko Tora did.
I'm trying to avoid going down a rabbit hole here because I have a lot to really vent about the handling of Oedo Tai. Even in this night alone, we saw a lot of Oedo Tai shenanigans, and to me, the consistency of their behavior was not there. So I'm probably going to hold off a little bit on what I have to say about them because it does play into the red belt title match, and then when we're talking about Thekla moving forward as well. But I have no objections to anything you just brought up. The baffling decision to excommunicate Starlight Kid, who might be one of their MVPs, just really requires some examination. And I think they could have foreshadowed this a lot better than they did. I think they could have made it make more sense. Let's move on to a title match that definitely needs to be talked about. This is maybe the most anticipated match of any of those that took place at All Star Grand Queendom. So we had the IWGP title match between the icon of Stardom, Mayu Iwatani, and Saori. This is a match that initially would have happened in 2020, but something apparently happened that year that prohibited that from being possible. And I have to think that there had to be a tremendous amount of pressure to not only perform this match with a 4-year sort of hiatus, but also to be doing it on the night of All-Star Grand Queendom, which is 1 year removed from one of the biggest matches Mayu Iwatani has had in recent memory when she faced Mercedes Moné in the match that got her this belt. And then to have her film, Runaway Wrestler, being so heavily promoted and tied to this event. The actress that is playing Mayu Iwatani was doing guest commentary and was there all night. So this couldn't have been more of a buildup in terms of needing to perform on the night. And so I got to give credit to both of these wrestlers for absolutely putting everything on the line here and delivering one hell of a match that went over 20 minutes. But I got to be honest, watching it twice, I didn't really feel like I was watching a long-winded match or a match that was like over 20 minutes long. Somehow they made this feel fresh and had it move the whole time through.
One of my favorite things in this whole thing, what you already pointed out, was they had Mayu, the person playing Mayu, on commentary, and although she loved the event, she was amazing on commentary. But when Mayu came out, I think she was wearing a mask, but you get to see that she's smiling. She's captivated by Mayu, an ability that only a rare few, but Mayu can guarantee do. Like, she's so enamored by Mayu, her presence, her aura, her moveset, everything. Because she's gonna be playing her. She's gonna have to do the moves. She's gonna have to do the moves, the moonsault. She's gonna have to do the super kicks. She's gonna have to do the 619. And I think when it comes to playing certain people, when it comes to autobiographies, there's no better way than seeing them live in person, capturing their mannerisms, capturing their personalities or traits, and trying to be Mayu Iwatani is one hell of a mission in its own sense.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to be Mayu Iwatani in this match because this match was so brutal at points. And watching it back, I didn't notice how much Saori was actually in control. She definitely had the upper hand for the majority of this. And something that was kind of cool was that towards the beginning, you could hear her verbally sort of harass Mayu, calling out to her, asking her if she was actually a champion, if she was actually deserving of being called the IWGP champion. And that drove Mayu insane. She switched gears really fast and just was raging. So then Saori had to turn to not verbally assaulting Mayu, but just physically brutalizing her. And so there were these layers to the progression of the match that really put Mayu in a low place. But being the icon that she is, of course, she was able to find a way to somehow overcome all of the adversity that got thrown at her.
One of my favorite things about that match was the verbal and physical, I guess, abuse that Mayu got. But I think it's somewhere within the 8-minute mark or 11-minute mark where Mayu's in control, but it's not a regular string of combos kind of control. She knocks down Saori and she just starts wailing on her. Just knees, kicks, baseball slides, everything. And one of the things I love about some Mayu matches is, yes, she's the Stardom icon. Yes, she's the IWGP Women's Champion. But you never really feel 100% in a Mayu match that, oh yeah, she's in control from bell one to the final bell. And that's something that I felt as she was beating the daylights out of Saori. It didn't feel like, oh, I'm in control. It more so felt I'm desperate and please stay down, even though it's only been like 10 minutes.
One reason I think that translates so well is Mayu Iwatani's selling ability is utterly incredible. And I think it would be not controversial for someone to argue that her selling is the best that Stardom has. So when someone applies a submission to her or stomps her, you feel like she's in the worst pain anyone's ever felt. She just commits to it so well. And you can't help but get this sense that she's really up against the wall. It definitely like was not easy for anybody to try and follow up Mayu's match. And depending on where you fall on this, I actually think that the next two title matches did a pretty good job of trying to bring something to the table, having just seen the insanity of Mayu versus Saori. But the one we'll get into right now involved a white belt challenge from 2024 Cinderella tournament winner Hanan, as she made a valiant effort in trying to dethrone Saori Anou of Cosmic Angels in a match that was slightly longer than the Mayu match, but had a different character to it, I would argue. This, to me, felt like a definitive Saori Anou match, certainly a definitive Hanan match. But I highlight Saori because her position as a champion in my mind did not fully click and come into focus until seeing this. And she now has this dominant aura about her that I think is going to make her subsequent challenges or defenses, her subsequent defenses really work. I think there are some people that weren't fully sold on Saori's ability to work a big match, but she's refined her formula. I've seen flashes of things she's done before, but it's more distilled down now. It's sleeker. It's not taking as long to get there. It's flowing a lot better. And that's what made this match to me really work and captivate me. The Cinderella tournament told a brilliant story of this emerging contender. And then in the ring, I think they told a pretty damn good story also. But I'm curious to hear what you thought.
So in this match, I came into this with the expectation that, all right, so Soriano just signed to Stardom, so she's not going to lose immediately. But I also didn't rule out the possibility of Hanan becoming Wonder of Stardom champion, for the simple fact that we've seen what a young champion looks like. For this last week or two, whenever I came to this match, and shockingly enough, I think this is the most talked about match out of the IWGP, the World, and the Wonder title. But Soriano is currently on a, I guess, personal mission, because maybe some people have forgotten or got sidetracked in translation. But from the day she won the Wonder of Stardom title, she basically promised Natsupoi that she would defend the title against her. And I think that's what drives Soriano in all of her matches. Not just, hey, let me maintain this belt, but I've made a promise to Natsumi to defend this title. As to when, we don't know. But I can't lose it here. I love the two clashing stories here, whether it's Soriano's promise versus Hanan's new journey, because I did say in my Cinderella review, that while there are multiple times that people will say, oh, Hanan's finally grown up, Hanan's finally stood out, whether you guys can say it was during the time of when she won the Futures title, when she broke Utami's record, when she went through a metamorphosis, so to say, in attire, theme song, look even, or when she teamed up with Mariah May for Dream Tag. A lot of people highlight those moments as, oh, Hanan grew up there, Hanan grew up there. I will stand by and say that Hanan has grown up and arrived at the Cinderella win. Yes, Hanan is the definition of a babyface, the smile, the point, the theme song. Yes, Hanan is the literal live action Cinderella, but I don't think that she was the next Wonder of Stardom champion. But nowhere in this match was I able to say that, because 21 minutes, 24 seconds. And then kept making me wonder, maybe she might win. And I think that was the greatest part about this match.
So that does bring us to the main event of All-Star Grand Queendom 2024, being called by many a 3 stages of hell match. You can call it what you like, but it saw Maika one-on-one against Momo Watanabe in different sets of rules and different sets of equipment and side characters helping out. This one, I gotta be completely honest, the first time I watched this, it didn't fully resonate with me and have the effect I'm sure they were going for. But rewatching this kind of sold me on what they did. This was a tremendous amount of real physical pain and physical exhaustion that was required to make this match work. I would argue an insane level of resilience and courage to get through this. And I was very convinced going in that Momo Watanabe would secure that first fall in the standard match, because to me, that's kind of the most interesting thing to do, to show that Momo has what it takes to be red belt champion, and she has what it takes to take Maika down. And she doesn't need weapons. She doesn't need to cheat. She doesn't need the referee to be randomly looking in some other direction. And not only does that build up Momo Watanabe, but it puts Maika in the most desperate place we can, because going from a standard match to a hardcore match only makes things worse for Maika when she's against Momo Watanabe of all people. So I could see the machinations of what they were doing. It just took me that second viewing to really appreciate how far into the well the wrestlers had to go to even pull any of this off. So I'll talk about the different phases and different details a little bit more, but I'm curious to hear just your initial thoughts of how this 3 stages of hell played out as the main event of All-Star Grand Queendom.
So in this 3 stages of hell match, when Momo actually got the first pin, I was actually thinking of your predictions already. I thought, oh crap, this dude called it right. But I wasn't shocked about the second and third falls. I was more so shocked in the direction, the methods that were going about it. Because you would think, ideally, Maika would get the first pinfall, and Momo would use a Oedo Tai in the second and third fall, and maybe E Nexus V would come out in that, because it would kind of just make sense. You know, E Nexus V, in a sense, kind of got attacked, or I guess Second in Command got attacked. But no, they were shockingly very honorable in the third match. You would have thought Michael would have gotten jumped, but I also thought that during the contract signing, when they stated that we're going to do that match, this match, on paper, Momo walked into this with every advantage in the book. But I can't ignore the fact that Maika, despite the fact that I was cheering for Momo, because I think she's long overdue a red belt run. I loved how Maika is defying the odds. Not only is she beating some of the best, she's beating Saya and Megan Bain and Utami. She's also winning in matches you would think the other person has the advantage in. So that's something to walk away whenever you're like looking at like Maika's title run.
Her run is now for sure solidified. I don't think, if for some reason, let's not even entertain craziness, but let's just say she's not red belt champion much longer. I don't think anyone could be unhappy with what she's been able to accomplish against these very, very worthy contenders. And like you said, a lot of times climbing very far uphill in order to leave with the belt itself. But I do want to talk about what you touched upon just before that, which to me, the worst thing about this match, like the biggest flaw, the maybe the fatal flaw, depending on how you look at it, is that it happened on this night at All-Star Grand Queendom. First of all, it had to follow up so many other title matches. It had to follow up an event in 2023 that is considered the most successful Stardom event. A lot of people have it as the best wrestling pay-per-view in 2023, at least on Stardom's calendar. And then tonight in particular had so many Oedo Tai related facets that happened. You brought up, you were alluding to the Mina Shirakawa Natsuko Tora match. There was literally a brawl between EXV and Oedo Tai in that match. Oedo Tai got in the ring and did something messed up all night long. So they really set the table for this to be a moment where we would expect something else to follow. And as you mentioned, that's not really what took place. And so there was this almost cognitive dissonance that we have to almost look at this match being in its own pocket universe where none of that other stuff happened, because the factions were already fighting each other. And then so I guess backstage they called a ceasefire or something. They decided to put their guns down. So it's almost like it was perfectly set up for some more tomfoolery and more interference and more, sort of disqualification worthy stuff to happen. None of that ended up happening. Again, like there's so many things with Oedo Tai that just drive me insane, that they cannot care about Natsuko Tora losing matches as their leader. They can seemingly really care about the goddess belts being on the line.
That's still got question marks.
And then not care about the red belt. Like, if you're not here to win the red belt and you're not here to have your faction leader be presented as somebody legitimate, why are you here? I don't know.
Like, the match is great. It's just that from a pay-per-view perspective, in a story perspective, you would have thought that EXV versus Oedo Tai would basically be everywhere from the ring to backstage to the parking lot.
Right.
And then it's like in the one match where you're expecting that, none of that is happening.
But real quick, I'll just give some flowers to this match, because these two wrestlers did something that is so impressive. And there's actually a moment in the third round, the last woman standing portion. They are so exhausted, so tired, but Maika still manages to land not only a superplex, but then she rolls over and chains it into 4 additional suplexes. And I can only imagine how much she had to draw from some well of her spirit to be able to do all of that. It felt so iconic and champion-like to me for her to be able to do that. Not in the first round, not even in the hardcore portion, but as we're getting into minute 35, they had the ambition to do something very different and to do something that would really push them. And I think in that sense, it's a success. Now, the story of how this plays into the rest of like the lore and the faction intrigue, it doesn't really. And that's, I think, the biggest thing you could count against this match. But just as a physical contest and a test of will, I'm very impressed with it.
I guess the real question would be like, who's next for Maika?
Okay, well, that is the perfect question to ask, because we're going to just jump into this issue, or I guess this subtopic that you wanted to discuss, which is the question of who's next. Who are going to be some of the upcoming title challengers? So do you want to start with Red Belt?
Actually, yeah. So I was actually thinking Shuri for first chance when it came to this, because originally this issue for me personally came with Shuri when she beat Mayu. She ended the year beating Utami, and she beat Julia, Mayu, and Utami. And it's just like there is a huge disconnect from going from Julia, Mayu to Risa, Sarah, and Mirai. So I think here with Maika, since she's already on that path of being this person, that person, all top tier people, it only feels right that Maika continues basically the red belt gauntlet going after Shuri, because eventually she is going to face Tam. Like I said, Cosmic Angels are all their rematches.
Yeah, I'm right in line with what you've been saying. I have Shuri on my list as a red belt challenge for Maika. And yeah, Tam Nakano to me is the end game of Maika's reign. That's where it's going to be ultimately heading. It's just a question of when. And on the way, I think Shuri does make sense. She's clashed with Maika. They had a pretty lengthy drawn out clash. Towards the end of 2022, after Maika surprisingly upset Shuri in the Grand Prix and secured a red belt challenge. So that's, if you want to take out the final bosses of Stardom, Shuri's definitely on that list. Now, I'm going to throw out one more for you. And I'm not even going to preface it with anything. I just want to see what you think about this. Maika versus Xena.
Maika versus Xena. I can see that being a thing out of curiosity for the level of sport, for competitive spirit, because one, faction versus faction member matches are actually really good. A lot of people tend to think that they half-ass it, but I actually love them. And aside from, I guess, winning the artist titles, Xena's not really there. Like, you don't really feel her presence. You can feel Hanako, you can feel Waka, you can feel Mina, but unless she's physically there, you kind of forget that Xena is in the group. Like, the last thing I remember about Xena was that she had a death sentence by saying, "Hey, I would to fight Shuri," which, why would anyone want to fight Shuri? So I think that that's actually a wonderful idea, because how else would you be able to remember Xena rather than fighting for the red belt?
Okay, that went over better than I thought it would, because I think at face value, you think of Xena challenging and you're like, okay, she has no chance. So why do it?
Oh no, she has no chance, but I think it benefits. You don't always benefit by just winning or losing.
Definitely. And she's physical enough that I think that could add to the dynamic that Maika doesn't always have with her challengers, because Maika is extremely strong. But then when you see her against Megan Bain and there's someone that can meet her at that place, if not exceed, that's when the match can get really interesting. And I think Xena might be able to do that.
You hit the nail right on the hammer. When it comes to Maika, the biggest takeaway from her matches is no one is going to outpower her. That's just a given. That's a concrete fact. She's Stardom's strong girl, so Xena actually would make sense in a power for power kind of deal. Well, yes, in Star Power we've had Kamitani, Utami, Momo, and Megan Bain to a level. But if you go for all around brute strength, aside from Momo's kicks, Megan Bain's like the only one that has been able to go power for power on her, where it looks like Maika's struggling to deliver a suplex. Like, just remember how she did a Michinoku driver off the top rope in Philadelphia. That looked like it took all the effort in the world. So imagine Xena doing a suplex to Maika with ease.
We've got one last topic, which didn't play into a title match and actually wasn't something I expected to have happen at all on this show. But All-Star Grand Queendom saw the return to stardom of the toxic spider Thekla. And not under any normal circumstances. Thekla has made a full-on heel turn. We are seeing a villainous Thekla who has embraced the Oedo Tai faction, has embraced Natsuko Tora, and has denounced what she is calling, and what I thought was a brilliant backstage promo that maybe I'll even put the link to in the description below. She denounced idol culture as a whole. She said she wants to bring a new era into stardom, and that she, and I quote, is going to kill your idols. She's not messing around. So what do you make of this return, and what are you expecting? What do we do with this Thekla?
So it's funny that we segue into this, because I think somewhere in the day, someone had said, "Oh, Stardom leaked that Thekla is returning and that she's joining E-Nexus V," which would have been ridiculous. So I'm glad we did this U-turn. But this was also like the ultimate swerve. Yeah, you guys saw she's team with E-Nexus V, when in reality we actually meant, no, she's gonna go beat up E-Nexus V. Starting with Mina Shirakawa, and I'm a sucker for callbacks. So whether it's something you did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I'm gonna be drawn into it. So for Thekla first to return and join Oedo Tai, that caught me off guard. But for her to feud with Mina, love it, because her first feud in Stardom is with Mina Shirakawa over the then vacant SWA title. But with her new purpose being, I want to kill idol culture, that has so many layers that you can go into it, because maybe she wants Stardom to look badass, and she can bring up, I think she did in the interview, where she could bring up the, oh, fans just think Joshi wrestling is just all this kawaii cute stuff. But she can basically be what Athena is in Ring of Honor, where instead of the Joshi killer, I also call her the porcelain husky killer. That's what Thekla is in Stardom. Oh, maybe Thekla can be the new Joshi killer. But with this idol killer stuff, there are so many people, from Mina, Tam, Natsupoi, basically anyone that came from TJPW. Like, you can come through that door, come to Stardom, and Thekla might be the first person that tries to punch you in the mouth. And then on top of this, she's a part of Oedo Tai, which I think I said this on Twitter, that during Thekla's first year in Stardom, I called her the next top gaijin, basically comparing her to B. Priestley, or now known as Blair Davenport in NXT. And now I call her the toxic gaijin, but I think that nickname now is confirmed with her joining Oedo Tai, similar to B. Priestley joining Oedo Tai. But on top of joining the group, targeting Mina, her final sentence backstage, again, guys, go check it out, where she said, "You thought I was going to be a side character. I'm a main bitch," really feeds into the idea of, could we see Thekla challenging for the red belt, the white belt, the IWGP belt? Because again, like we spoke about earlier, Tam is owed a rematch for the World of Stardom title. So who's to say maybe she beats Maika, and the first person that calls dibs is Thekla? If you're gonna kill all of everyone's idols, imagine the damage you do when you kill the top kawaii.
That's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. The other thing is I'm gonna tie it back around to this whole Oedo Tai faction and everything going on, because this is a shot in the arm, hopefully, for this faction to get somebody to join who is on a warpath, who is not pulling any punches. I really am hoping that they can make this land, because I've been a little disillusioned with how Oedo Tai has been presented. We've talked about the inconsistencies in the objectives they have, how they conduct themselves. Sometimes they're going after people and trying to take a match in any way possible, and sometimes they're just hanging back oddly and letting these big matches slip through their fingers. I need this faction to really have some teeth, so that when they are front and center trying to take someone's belt, it feels dangerous and it feels real. I think one of the ways they can do that is kind of how Thekla is approaching this. The times that I think Oedo Tai has been the most effective is when their goal is to, like, not beat you in a match, but ruin your life and ruin your faction and ruin how your friends, they might even take your friend from you and corrupt them and recruit them. That's what I want to see Oedo Tai doing. And I think Thekla knows this. I think she knows that that's how she's going to make the most impact and be the most memorable right now. So I don't necessarily want her to start challenging for belts. I want her to start trying to ruin people's lives. So I want Thekla to go after people without losing momentum. And so that's why I would hold back right now with her challenging for titles. Unless they're going to give her a title, let's just have her make people's lives miserable. So as we wrap this up, I definitely want to thank you very much for talking about this crazy event with the various twists and turns, and providing your 2 cents. Can you let people know where they can find you, or anything you want to promote or let people know about so they can check you out?
So guys, you guys can follow me on my YouTube podcast, on, it should be everywhere. It's Talk for Glory, guys. You guys know how to spell Talk for Glory. But you guys can also find me on my social medias. I'm mainly on Instagram and I'm mainly on Twitter. So you guys can follow me on my Twitter, being Enigma_V4. And then you guys can also follow me on my Twitter, which is Enigma V4, no spaces. And if you guys want to talk about whether it's Joshi, whether it's WWE, AEW, New Japan, or wrestling I may not know about, I'm welcome to all of it. I don't know much about TJPW, so that's a fun fact. If you got something about that for me, thank you. And Jason, again, thank you so much for having me here. I know we talked about collabing in Philadelphia. So who knows? Maybe you'll end up on Talk for Glory next.
Yeah, I had a great time meeting you and talking to you in Philadelphia. So we'll definitely have to do something again in the future. Let's not wait until the next All-Star Grand Queendom. We'll do something before that comes around. But yeah, it was great having you on. Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for listening.